Well, we're back at it, counting down our top palettes of the year. In a previous video, we looked at palettes 55 to 40, and today we're going to look at palettes 40 to 21. So if you haven't already seen that video, I'd encourage you to go back and look at that one. I'd also encourage you to ignore the washing machine in the background. But I had some beautiful palettes, and as I explained in that first video, I buy all of my own makeup for the most part, so I don't really have any palettes in here that I absolutely hate. It really just comes down to color story, preference, formula, that sort of thing. And so some of the palettes that I had in that first video I absolutely love. It's just I don't use them as much, or don't like them as much, or don't love them as much as some of the others. And so if you'd like to see sort of the middle of the pack, then I'd encourage you to watch today, follow along, shop my links, share me with people that might enjoy this sort of content, and of course, follow along on Instagram and on YouTube, Unsolicited Eyeshadow. Now, like I said in the first video, some companies like YSL or Adept, Prada, Victoria Beckham, even Louis Vuitton put out multiple palettes this year, so they're kind of scattered throughout the video series, and it really just comes down to color preference. And so we're going to start today looking at palette number 40 of the 55 I tried. Let me go grab it. So my 40th favorite palette of the year is from YSL, a brand that put out, I don't know, about 8 or 10 of these quads this year between the special editions and the ones that have been put into the permanent collection. And this is number 730, Sunrise Safari. Now this one came out towards the end of the summer along with 3 others. And this one really was sort of the most neutral and kind of the most basic of the quads that came out for the summer, but yet I really love this one, and it has a beautiful color story. There's a reason why sometimes the most basics work, and this one works really well. In fact, I would argue it works better than some of the special edition colors they put out for the rest of the year. And I'll just show you, it has a beautiful kind of warm pinky kind of color story. Really pretty for the summer and fall. Very pretty, and it's got more pigment than some of the special edition quads that YSL put out, like the Golden Lust or the Blooming Lust or the Golden Desire or whatever they name them. This one really is quite beautiful, even if it is a little boring. Okay, so number 39. We have another entry from the woman who put out 6 of these little quads this year. Was it 6 or 7? I think it's 6. And it is Victoria Beckham, and it's her Olive quad. Now this one is really beautiful. It's got this lovely green color story. It's got a beautiful kind of muted gold, a dark green, an olive, which matches an eyeliner in the same name, and then this beautiful tan. The one thing that I don't necessarily like about this one, although I do love it, is that you kind of get a very dark smoky look right off the bat with it. It's a little more tricky to get something a little bit lighter, but I really do love it. And these Victoria Beckham quads are an outstanding quality, and I've got them scattered throughout the list from towards the bottom towards the very top. So this is a beautiful one at number 39, and it's the Olive quad from Victoria Beckham Beauty. Okay, so we're up to number 38, and this one saddens me a little bit because it's from one of my favorite brands, but as far as the midi palettes are concerned, this was my favorite of the midi palettes that this brand put out this year. And this is the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. This came out in the early part of the spring, and it really was, other than the 2 brown palettes that came out at the end of the year, the only sort of midi palettes we got this year. We did get a few of the little 5-panners, but as you can see, it's got a beautiful peachy color story, but for something called Bloom, it's actually kind of muted, and it's very brown, peachy, coral kind of heavy. There are some beautiful shades in here, including the shade Equinox, which is kind of a blue to pink duochrome, but I'll just grab some of the others here to show you. There are some beautiful colors in here, and of course they are excellent Natasha Denona formula. But again, it's that very peachy, corally kind of color story that we see over and over and over. And I'm really hoping as a goal for 2026 that we go back to having some fun palettes from Natasha Denona, because I like these tightly curated palettes like this, but we've had so many now that are pink or brown, gold, tans, warms, nudes. It'd be nice to bring some color back into the line, and so that's kind of a hope for me for for 2026 from Natasha Denona, a brand that I love and whose formula, even in this palette, is outstanding. So at number 37, we have one of the Chanel fall palettes this year. 4 of them came out this year, and I purchased 3 of them. They had the buttons theme, and this one is the one that I think was probably the most popular, and it's the Buttons Couture. It's a really beautiful color story. It's very neutral, although this kind of mauve-y color is quite pretty. The only thing about this quad, the formula is very nice and creamy. It's just there's not a ton that you can do with it. You're going to get a very brown, heavy look. Although it is really beautiful, and I do like that kind of mauve-y, taupey color on the top there. There's not really a light brightening color to put on the inner eye, and every time I try to create a look with this palette, it ends up looking kind of similar to other looks I've created with it. That being said, it's a beautiful neutral palette. I think it probably sold extremely well for Chanel, and I think it would work for a lot of people, and it's got that beautiful Chanel formula that was in all 3, or all 4, I guess. I didn't get the 4th one, the pink one, but all 4 of those quads that came out during the fall. Okay, so next we have one that really surprises me, because the last couple of years have had this brand high up, like number 4, number 5, and I've really loved the last 2 entries in this line. But for whatever reason, this year's Ethereal Eyes by Makeup by Mario, although a beautiful color story, is just much more subdued than some of the others. I think back to the original Ethereal Eyes or the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight, and they had such beautiful, sparkly, finely milled toppers. And this one only really has kind of one that's kind of sparkly. Everything else is just very subtle, although it's a beautiful color story, and I'll swatch some for you. And the formula is quite nice. It's just very different than the other entries from the line. But it's a beautiful color story playing on nature, and I think that it's probably part of the theme of this palette was to be a little bit more natural, a little bit more user-friendly, and a little bit more understated. But I just really miss those beautiful toppers that were in the first 2 Ethereal Eyes and kept them so high up on my list for each of their respective years. This is a beautiful palette. I think a lot of people will love it. It'll look beautiful in a lot of skin tones. It's just a little underwhelming compared to some of the other entries by Makeup by Mario in the Ethereal Eyes line. So Prada Beauty this year came out with 3 new quads, and they were all sort of in the nude family. They were called the Halo quads, and they had 3 sort of nudes and then 1 kind of holographic shade in them. My number 55, if you've gone back and watched, palette was the lightest one because I just couldn't get it to show up on me. But the next palette in my list at number, what would this be, 35, is the Pansy Quad from Prada. Now this is in a refill container. We all know what the beautiful Prada packages look like. But I wasn't going to swap it out. This is a really beautiful palette, and it's got that gorgeous, creamy Prada, almost kind of like moussey formula, and it's got a really pretty kind of gold to green to pink holographic shade in it. It's just a really lovely quad. Again, I think it would look really beautiful. I think this is the medium one in their series, and it is a really beautiful color story. A little subdued, a little understated, especially compared to the original Prada quads. But it's a beautiful quad with a beautiful formula, and I think it would work on a lot of people. We're starting to see a little bit of a trend here in the middle, which is not the color stories that I don't like or find difficult, and not the color stories that really excite me, but the more kind of everyday color stories that I think will actually be really beautiful on a number of people and are so popular because you can wear them to work. It's just, for me, they tend to fall towards the middle because the quality is great, but the color stories don't excite me as much as some of the others. Okay, so now we are at number 34. Number 34 is the... Yes, the Victoria Beckham quad, another one of her 6 that she put out this year, and this is in Night Flash. Now, ironically, last year I had a lot of these like black and gray smoky quads on my list, but this year not as many companies put them out. This is, however, a really beautiful one. The only downside to it really is that every look you're going to get with it's going to be incredibly dramatic and evening. But they are beautiful colors, and the formula is really spectacular. This matches or is supposed to kind of go with her satin kajal liner in Night Flash. Could also go with the black one, but it's just a really beautiful quad. Again, it's middle of the pack because it's not the most exciting color story, but the formula is really gorgeous, and for a black and white kind of smoky eye, you can't go wrong with it this year. I just laugh because last year we had so many from YSL and Chanel and just some really beautiful ones, and this year it's a color story that hasn't been done as much. So if you're looking for something like that, a great New Year's Eve palette, then I would check out Night Flash from Victoria Beckham. So I've been raving about Adept Cosmetics. For the longest time, they had some of those beautiful shimmers and multi-chromes and duochromes, but this year they really got their mattes on par, and they're really beautiful blendable mattes. And they also came out with a new packaging kind of, what would you call it, standard. And they're using this in all of their packaging, and it has the little holes. It's very similar to a Natasha Denona midi palette size, and obviously with the little holes, it's very similar. The next palette on my list, and it would be number 33, is the EMO palette from Adept Cosmetics. Now, Adept Cosmetics, all of their palettes are absolutely gorgeous, so it really just comes down to a color story selection, and for this one, I just really like this color story, and that's why it's sort of in the middle. I have been saying that we have had a lot of neutrals in the middle here, but we can't say that with Adept. This is a really beautiful and varied color story. Let me just pull a few colors here just to show you what's in here. It's really beautiful, and their mattes have really come a long way. But of course, what I'm going to show you is their beautiful multi-chromes and duochromes. This is just 4 shades, and look how beautiful and shifty they are. Adept came out with 4 of these palettes this year, and then some re-promotes or reissues, but they really have just hit it out of the park with all of them. I mean, look how beautiful that is. They're so shifty and so beautiful to use, and so that's why I have this palette up, and I really have Adept scattered throughout the list because, again, it's just based on color story, because the formula has been really exceptional this year, and they really are kind of the best of the indie eyeshadow brands. That palette made me think a little bit about Adept's Seahorse. That one did reissue this year, but I did not purchase it because on the Adept website it said if you had the original then you shouldn't consider purchasing that one. There weren't that many changes. And then it also made me consider the 2 Isamaya palettes that came out this year in reissues. I already have the originals and ranked them in past years, so I didn't purchase them. But that palette made me think of it because the finishes are quite similar, and those are beautiful palettes. So I just want to give them a shout out because I know they were reissued and they were so sought after the first time that if you're considering buying them, I definitely would, especially if Sephora comes back with like a 20% off one purchase like they do during the holidays often. That's a really beautiful set of palettes. Okay, so number 32, I guess we're about halfway through the list, almost halfway through the list, and it is the latest entry from Victoria Beckham, and it is the Victoria Beckham Cocoa Palette. Now this palette is quintessential fall. I did a Thanksgiving video with this palette. It's just a beautiful everyday color story, as many of the palettes in this section are. And you actually can achieve something a little bit lighter and more ethereal with it. I do wish, obviously, that it included a brightening, lighter color that you could use for the inner eye, kind of metallic. I normally like something like that, but this is really exceptional, and I think it's probably going to be one of her most popular, if not already her most popular of her quads. The formula is really beautiful. It's a beautiful color story, and it's going to work on a great number of people. And you can get something a little bit lighter and more ethereal from this than you can from some of her other quads, which are so dark and serious. Okay, so next up we have another palette from Adept Cosmetics. Like I said, they're scattered throughout because they had such exceptional palettes this year. And again, just based on color story, but this is the RN Hull palette, and it came out towards the end of the year this year, and it is a gorgeous fall winter color story, just really exceptional. I really like how grungy this one is, and that's why I have it higher up on the list than some of the other ones from Adept. I love the grungy tones that are in here. And here's some just to show you. It's much more beautiful for like fall and winter, just really exceptional. And again, they have those beautiful duochromes and multichromes, and the mattes have really come so far. I really love this palette, and I hope Adept just keeps knocking it out for next year. Some of the mattes in here are really standouts. I mean, I'm always going to show you the beautiful multichromes and duochromes, but here I'll just show you a couple of the mattes because they are really exceptional creamy mattes, and these are such beautiful kind of fall tones with so much pigment, but really smooth, creamy, and blendable. So I think Adept has really been killing it, and there might be some more Adept to come in this list. That's how good they've been doing this year. So I definitely would check this out, or any of the Adept palettes that have come out recently. It's really just based on your color preference because they are all exceptional, including this RN Hull palette. I hope I'm saying that right. So the next palette we have today, which would be, let's see, number 30, is the another palette from the Chanel Fall series of buttons that came out. Like I said, I purchased 3 of the 4. I did not get the pink one because it was just incredibly light, and it really reminded me of that Prada quad that I struggled with that I previously had on the list in the other video. But this one I really did love, and this is the Buttons Baroque quad from Prada Beauty. It has the yellow and purple and kind of rusty orange color. Really beautiful, beautiful formula. And let me pull these colors for you because it was quite different for Chanel. They really, as we know, embraced color towards the end of the year, and this is a beautiful color story with that really beautiful, let me try to build it up just a little bit more, that beautiful purple sparkly topper color. This is just a really lovely color story, And I thought of the Buttons Baroque series, or the Button series, that this particular entry, the Buttons Baroque, was really beautiful. And so if it's still available and you're interested in that color story, then I definitely would consider grabbing it. I think you would really like it. So for number 29, we have another entry from a series of quads that came out this year that were incredibly controversial, but I really love them. They're beautiful, refined formulas. It's just this color story doesn't excite me as much. And it is the Louis Vuitton quad, and this one is in Beige Memento. A beautiful color story. It's just very neutral, but it's lovely. The formula is outstanding from creative director Pat McGrath. And I think that this is probably one of their most popular ones because a lot of people can wear it. It's a beautiful everyday color story. And I think that you can actually, the reason I have this one higher than like the Victoria Beckham one is you can get a lighter, more ethereal look with this quad. And you can get a little bit more range with it. But both of those quads are quite similar. It's really just the Louis Vuitton formula is just a little more refined and easier to build up, where the Victoria Beckham just comes out of the gate like bam. And then of course there was that Chanel quad that was all browns too. All three of these are pretty similar. It's just a formula situation or formula preference, and I really love the buildability and the refined nature of the sparkle that's in the Louis Vuitton by Pat McGrath quads. And so that's why at number 29 we have Beige Memento. God, look at that component. I still can't get over how gorgeous it is. So at number 28 was a quad that kind of surprised me because when those fall quads released from YSL, this was the one that I wasn't that excited about. And then when I actually got it on the eye, it was really beautiful. And it is the Majestic Riyadh quad from YSL. It's a little bit more red, obviously, Riyadh, leaning than some of the other YSL quads that they've come out in the past. And it really has a lot of depth in it that some of the YSL quads don't necessarily have. And it is in my favorite configuration of YSL, which is one sparkly topper, two mattes, and one metallic. And this is just a really beautiful red color story. And it has a ton of pigment, and you can actually get something incredibly dark and dramatic or something lighter. It's just a really beautiful color story, and like I said, I wasn't that excited by it. You can see that kind of holographic pink topper there. I wasn't that excited about it when the pictures first came out. Some of the other ones in that series got more attention, but this one should not be discarded. It's just a really beautiful quad, and you can get such a beautiful look because this deep dark burgundy here is not a color that you find in every quad or every palette. It's just really beautiful, and I think you'd really like it. If you passed it over, it might be worth going back for when the sales are going on for throughout the holidays, because it's a beautiful quad. We are up to number 27, and it is the first of the Les 9 Ombres that came out as a shocker from Chanel around the holiday series, around the holiday time. And we did not know it was coming. It kind of hit us out of nowhere, and these beautiful three 9-pan quads came out with this extremely pigmented formula for Chanel with a lot of interesting multi-chrome and glittery finishes. At number 27, I have Daring Muse, which is a really, really beautiful palette. The reason it's a little lower than some of the others from this series is just because the color story is just a little bit more primary. It's not as curated as the other two. But I actually think this is probably the most user-friendly and the one that you could get the most use out of if you wanted to get one of the three. The colors in here are really beautiful, including the first color here, which is this beautiful gold to pink duochrome. But there are these stunning, I would consider this like a jewel box of a palette. You could get beautiful holiday looks from it, but if you were just looking for like a one and done, there's so many beautiful colors in here. And unlike a lot of Chanel palettes, this one has so much pigment and so much different formulations, and to include like multi-chromes and duochromes in a Chanel palette is just really unique. And I think that these 9-pan palettes, although expensive, were really beautiful as an addition to the Chanel line. I'm going to pull this one duochrome here because I think it's just so pretty. But it's this blue to pink multi-chrome. You just don't see that from Chanel very much. And so for that reason, I have this one pretty high up in my list. And I think if you purchase any of the 3 from Chanel of the 9 pans, you'd really like them. This one's probably, like I said, the most user-friendly and you could get the most use out of, but all 3 are exceptional. So we're up to number 26, and it's another quad from Louis Vuitton. Like I said, the formulas on these Louis Vuittons is so refined and exceptional that it really just does come down to color story. And so for number 26, I have the Louis Vuitton quad in Forces of Nature. Now this one's always sold out, or seems to be mostly sold out, and I think it's because of this beautiful color story. It's very similar to like the Victoria Beckham one, but this one I think is just more refined, and again, it's more buildable and not just pigment right off the bat. So you really can kind of control the amount of pigment you put on your eyes, but it's a beautiful color story. Let me just swatch it for you here. In this olive greeny brown that has been so popular this year. And it's got that beautiful gold there. These are just so refined and elegant, and I know there were a lot of criticism about them, but I just really like them. And I think, just pick the color story you like, buy the component once, and then buy the refills that you like that speak to you, because they have 8 different color stories, and this one really is beautiful if you're looking for that kind of olivey green color story. And this one actually is really great because all of these could make beautiful one and dones too. So that's number 26 on my list, Louis Vuitton Forces of Nature. So next up we have, where did it go? My favorite of the fall buttons collection from Chanel that came out, and it is the Buttons Stellaire number 229. It looks kind of boring, and I suppose it is, but it's just a beautiful neutral color story, and it has this lovely silver that has kind of a blue shift to it. It's just really beautiful, and every look that I've done with this has turned out really beautiful, and I think that of the buttons collection that came out, this was my favorite without a doubt. It wasn't really hard because it just has such a lovely color story. And look at that blue gray color that's on top, along with this kind of yellowy color. And then the nude is a perfect color for me because you can't see it because it's my skin tone color. So this is just a really exceptional one. And again, I think if you really like Chanel, you're not going to go wrong. This one, if it's still available, would make a great gift because I think it would go with so many different skin tones. But it's just a really beautiful, neutral, everyday color story with that really cool metallic in there. I think it makes it really special and unique. Well, 4 more in this series, my middle of the pack, if you will. I think what I'll do at the end of this is maybe put all 3 videos together to make one really long one for those of you who are glutton for punishment, or those of you who like to be a completist and watch everything together. But we're down to number 24, and this really was a huge seller that I didn't see coming. It also introduced us to a new format, or not a new format, but a new formula from Danessa Myricks, and it is the Danessa Myricks Freedom Mini Pastel Dream Palette. This came out in the spring as a complement to her Freedom palette that came out last year, and also complements the Freedom palette that came out later this year and will be later on in the list. But this was also the first time that she introduced her matte formula, and she waited to release her mattes until it was absolutely perfect, and you can tell because the mattes are so creamy and beautiful from Danessa. And as you can see here, it's just a really beautiful, shifty color story. Beautiful for the spring and summer. Look at that gorgeous kind of teal matte there. That's how bold and pigmented these are, but they're really beautiful to blend. And much like with all the Freedom palettes, they're so easy to just swap in and out and create your own custom palettes. But this one was a shocker to me because it sold out really quickly, and then Sephora had a lot of trouble keeping it in stock. So that tells me that mixed with what we saw from Chanel at the end of the year with their 9 pans, and then what we saw from Danessa with her big Freedom palette at the end of the year, that colors coming back, even Pat McGrath's holiday palette. And so I really love that as someone who loves eyeshadow, because as lovely as all these neutral palettes are, something like this really sold well, and I think it's because there's a hunger out there to bring some of this color back. And so that's where this little dude ends up, a beautiful palette from Danessa Myricks. Number 23 was a big shocker because it was the last palette to come out this year, and there was no real press about it until it just popped up. Earlier this fall, ABH came out with their Embers palette, and it was really beautiful. It was earlier on in this list, but it was really just satins and metallics. It didn't have any beautiful like toppers or duochromes, and I thought that that was a real missed opportunity. My guess is these two palettes were supposed to come out together, and this one just wasn't ready. But at number 23 is the Haze palette from ABH. This is following along with their line that's included embers, sugar, and spice. But this is a gorgeous cool tone palette that also has a duochrome, a bright blue, kind of an icy topper that is in that formula that was in Sugar and Spice that I like so much. And just really exceptional formula from ABH. And this is what I wanted kind of Embers to be, but I can understand if they were to come out at the same time, then it wouldn't have been so obvious that Embers didn't have any of the special formulas in it, because this one does. I mean, look how beautiful these are. It's just really a beautiful, cool tone, dark, smoky palette. It kind of reminds me of a baby version of the Makeup by Mario Moonlight palette that came out last year. But I really like this one, and I think this duochrome down here is really gorgeous. And so I hope that ABH continues to come out with these and maybe doesn't make us wait as long next time, because ABH sometimes gets slept on, but this is a really beautiful palette, the Haze palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Well, 2 more to go in this series, or in this little segment of my favorite 55 palettes of the year, and it's another one of the 9 pans from Chanel. This one I think is probably the least popular, and maybe people think it's kind of ugly because it is, but I think it's a really unique 70s kind of grungy color story, and it is the new singular 9 pan from Chanel. Now this one deviates from the other two because this one has more mattes in it and less sort of metallics and duochromes. There's only 3 sort of metallic-y duochrome colors in here. The rest are mattes, but it's a really unique color story that could easily work for the spring or over here for the fall. Just really unique, and those grungy kind of 70s colors that you don't see a ton in palettes. And I think it's just really interesting and unique, and I can understand why some people might think it's kind of ugly, but I think I like any time a brand like this takes a risk, and I think this is a really cool color story, and you can get some really interesting looks with it. You just have to be careful and really place them and kind of color block with them. But it's really exceptional, and I really like this. And like I said earlier, I think these 9 pans were so great from Chanel to have such a highly pigmented, interesting formulas, interesting duochromes, multi-chromes, just something that I really loved, and I hope that they continue them moving forward. And the last palette in this portion, number 21, is another entry from Le Bouteille Louis Vuitton by Pat McGrath. And this one kind of scared me when I first saw it because dark reds can go wrong so fast and make you look sickly. But with all of the quads, it's clear that Pat McGrath and Louis Vuitton put in a lot of time and effort into thinking through each of these. And this is the Monogram Rouge quad. It's just really beautiful, and this red is just perfect. It's not sickly, it's got enough burgundy in it, it's got this beautiful rose gold too. You can just get some really interesting looks with this that are very dramatic, or you can just kind of stick with these and get something that's very neutral. But I really enjoy this, and that's why it's fairly high up on my list. I really loved all of these, and it's just, I really appreciate the amount of time and care that was put into creating these. So we've made it from what, 40, we made it through 20 palettes, and so the next video that I'll upload will be our final 20 palettes, my favorite 20 of the year. Like I said, all of these palettes are exceptional. It's just kind of down to preference and color story. Could you guess what was on my eyes today? If you guessed it was the Adept R in whole palette, then you would be right. So I'll cut in the little demo of me using it. I'm trying to use in each one of these palettes just to show you. And so this is a beautiful palette, and I've really enjoyed using it. Like I said, all of the Adept palettes this year have been winners, and there will be more coming up down the road. So I look forward to you enjoying these videos. I hope you've enjoyed them. You've looked back over the first one and now this one, and I hope you're waiting for the last one, which will look over my top 20. And then, like I said, I'll probably combine them all into one large video for the end of the year. But it's been a really good year for palettes this year, and I'm pleased to bring the list to you. So if you like this kind of content, then please like, subscribe, follow along, shop my links, and share me with others who might like this kind of content. And I'll be back soon with number 20 through number 1 palette of 2025. Bye everyone.